The scheduled start time doesn't match the other destinations. Edit the broadcast to fix it. No, I want to go live right now. Why is it doing that? Okay, here we go. All right, Bonita, well, it looks like we are live. We're going to go ahead and get started tonight. Welcome to Propel. I am your host, Stephanie Morrow, and thank you for being here with us tonight. We're going to just check here our technology and make sure that we are clicking on all cylinders. Our goal tonight is to broadcast live from YouTube as well as both of the Facebook pages, the personal and the business page. So I want to make sure that that's happening. And we are going to be ready here in just a second, Bonita. All right. All right, well, it looks like we are on YouTube and it looks like we are on the business page for Facebook. And I want to get connected to this personal page. So let me see how that's going to work. I had it all set up and actually we're broadcasting this a little bit. We are ahead of schedule tonight, so that might have something to do with us getting connected as well. So give us just a second here. Got a couple of people hopping on, joining us. So thank you and welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for being here with us tonight. If it is your first time joining us for Propel, thank you for being here. If you have been with us for some of our previous broadcasts and you're back for round 2 or 3, thanks for being here as well. So before we get into this conversation tonight with this limitless leader, I want to just take a few moments and talk a little bit about really the inspiration for Propel and what the goal and what the spirit and the heart and the intent of the work is. I just got a message. It says YouTube saying starting in 9 minutes. That's what it is. I am a little bit early, so I always give that cushion of time that I talked about. And we went early just a little bit live. Went live just a tad bit early today. And so I started kind of getting some messages from YouTube. So I know Facebook will allow us to go early. I'm not sure about YouTube, but hey, it's the world that we live in. It's in one of 2 places. So however you're tuning in tonight and joining us, thank you so much for being here. So that is good. All right, guys. Well, when we think about Propel is a teleconference series that I launched really earlier. I want to say early September was our first broadcast, and it was really to put together a platform to be able to hear from what I call limitless leaders, those fearless, fierce, limitless leaders that are leading from the edge. And I decided to call it Leading Edge Conversation because I believe that that is where that's where the work is really happening. You know, when we think about the masses and we think about our comfort zones, those that are out on the leading edge, that are leading from the edge, have, you know, more than likely taken steps and made a decision to really kind of move past what is familiar, what's, you know, happening around, to really just get out there and try their hand at what Les Brown calls their stuff. He says everyone has stuff. And so when I think about some of the amazing women that are out there doing their stuff, they're not doing it from the comfort zone. They're out on the leading edge. They are taking chances. They are exploring. They are unapologetic. They are, you know, building the plane while they're flying it. I mean, they are leaping and growing their wings. And so that's kind of, you know, when I think about the leading edge physically, if it was a place where you could stand, it would be women and even men, for that matter, that are leading from, you know, from that place away from the comfort zone. We know if we want to go, you know, the road well traveled, then we can just stay in our comfort zones and do what we've always done, get the same results, be around the people that are doing the kinds of things that we're doing and all of that. But there's something to be said about stepping out. And when we step out, it's not that it is not without challenge or that it is without barriers or that there is no contrast or no adversity. But limitless leaders make the decision to remove those barriers. They make the decision to work around those challenges or to work through those challenges. And so nothing really keeps them from making their way out to that leading edge. And so when you think about women that are out there, it's easy to look at sometimes all of the bells and whistles and, think, hey, people, they just showed up, like this with this great work and it's just happening. And that's not really the case. I don't know of anyone that has accomplished anything of any level of significance or greatness that has not had some challenges and some barriers that they've had to move through. And so when we talk about being a limitless leader, it doesn't mean that we don't have limits. It means that we're dedicated and committed to putting in the work, to moving past those limits, to move through those limits, to make our way out to the leading edge. And I believe that that is where life is. That's where it's happening. That's where our greatness is. That's where our destiny is. I believe that's where our provision is, our abundance, our happiness. I believe that it's out on the leading edge. So I said all that to say, Bonita, welcome to Propel tonight. Now, guys, let me tell you just a little bit about Bonita. I had the opportunity to meet Bonita, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, right? We were both featured speakers for a women's summit in, was it Savannah or Charleston?
Savannah.
Down in Savannah a few years ago, and connected with her and her work. Have you ever been in those spaces and it can be 50 people in a room and maybe you connect with one person or 2 people and you just maintain some type of connection with that person. And that's what happened with Bonita and a few other women that I met that weekend, and started to talk and realize that, hey, I'm here in Dallas, she's down the street, just a few hours in San Antonio. And when I'm out traveling for work and I'm in the area, we connect, we collaborate, we powwow, we hang out. And so she has just been a great friend and colleague to have over these last few years. And I'm super proud of all of the work that she's doing. We'll be talking about that as we get into her story tonight. So Bonita is an inspirational speaker, an empowerment coach, and a leadership developer. She helps women gain clarity about who they are, what they want, and the confidence to pursue those desires. She's able to help those that she serves by her ability to hear beyond the surface with her intuitive ear. Her innovative coaching style allows for her to connect with her clients and those she serves on a much deeper level. So welcome tonight to Propel, Bonita Owens.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. So good to be here. I'm excited when I saw you doing this, and I'm glad to be a part. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, and for a long time, I sat on Propel, and I often say that a lot of times we have ideas, and I believe that there is the law of gestation that is always at work. So we don't have it and birth it and do it the same time that we have it. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I know good things from God things. So the God things come, they stay, they gestate, right? The good things, they come, they're fleeting, they go. Oh, that's a good idea. I would, maybe not so much. But those God ideas, they keep coming back. And so when I was first given this vision and this idea, I literally, I'm very old school. Like, I have the new iPhone. My husband just bought all this stuff this weekend. I don't know anything about it. I'm a pencil and paper girl. So I literally, if I have a purse, I got a pad, right? A spiral, old school spiral. And as inspiration comes, idea comes, and I keep the spirals over the years. So long story short, I had this idea. So I'm jotting down possible names and, what the format might be like. And then I've got this list of people, who are these fearless leaders, these limitless leaders, and just started jotting down names of women that are in my circle. And of course, your name was on that list. So it has just been it's been a journey. We're just a few weeks into Propel, and it's just another way to be able to serve and to show up. Right now it's easy to kind of, I guess, really go in hiding. There's so much happening virtually. And I think I talked on some of the other broadcasts about this virtual space being super crowded right now. And, people are working online. They're going to church online. They are socializing online. They're doing, sorority meetings online. And, everything is happening online. And I didn't want to just create another place for people to have to be. And so I know, from experience that people connect around candid, valuable conversations. And so I was very careful, in creating this format, to put it where it's just that, where people are part of that conversation. Sometimes they're joining us in the chat, asking questions and that type of thing. So, Bonita, we're going to get into these questions tonight. So I want you to talk a little bit about, just reflecting on your work and all of the different hats that you wear and all the different spaces that you show up in. What does it really mean to you when you hear the term limitless leader as it relates to your work and the brand that you're building over at Amazing Women Network?
Yeah, so when I think of limitless leader as it relates to my brand, I think of two words. I think of expansion and possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Starting on this journey, and I was jotting some things as you were talking, like you said, people see you and they just assume that, oh, wow, that just comes easy, right? And so when I started on this journey, I had a vision and I did not know how to make that happen. But more so than that, I had a lot of doubt. Like, I had a lot of doubt. Like, can I really do this? Like, when you first get the vision, you're all excited. Like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. But then when it's time to, put the pedal to the metal, as they say, then it's like all of these thoughts come up, right? And so I knew that I wanted to do something different. I knew that I wanted to shake up. I love that you talked about, staying in your comfort zone, staying in the norm. I knew that I didn't want to be that. So being a limitless leader, I think of, wow, all the possibility that as I began to search for my purpose and my calling, I really started off small. Like, I thought I had this idea.
Yeah.
And then when I got around different people, I'm like, oh my gosh, there is so much more than what I even thought possible.
Yeah.
And so as I expand, as I grow, then my brand grows and the more value that I bring to the women that I want to serve. So I just feel as though I think I'm one of these people. First of all, I don't talk about anything that I don't having experienced and been through myself. And I'm about learning. Like, I love to learn. And I think, the best teachers are the best learners, so I just feel as though, I grow. I'm always looking to grow and expand so that the more I grow, the more I expand, the more aware I am, the more I can bring to the people that I serve. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you said about that lifelong learning is a term that we throw around, especially in education. I'm a, educator by trade.
Yeah.
And so you always hear lifelong learning, but the reality is I am a master teacher, but I'm also a master student. And so where I'm a teacher on this level, I'm a student on this level. And so it's just always that opportunity. And it's really part of, really living by that, really embodying the growth mindset that we read about, we talk about, we hear about it. I'm sure you talk to your clients about it. And when you're out, training, in different corporations and businesses, you're always talking about that growth mindset. And so it is about living it. We can talk about it and it's a different story to actually live it. And so one of those things that, as you were saying that, I'm just sitting here nodding going, yes, I understand how important, it is to just commit to that lifelong growth because the reality is there's always going to be something more that you can do. And not in a way of just being busy, to just be doing something, just moving in circles. But if you are ever at a space where you feel as though you've arrived, then it's hard for you to very naturally and organically expand your work and expand your brand, which kind of leads to the next question that I want to ask is, talk to us about what is Amazing Women Network, where did the inspiration for it come, what do you do there, who are the people that you touch, just all of that.
Okay. Yes. So Amazing Women Network is about my mission is to help women to be, do, and have all that they were created for. And what that means, and it really comes out of my story of, I've been always this person that did the quote unquote right thing, did what I thought I should do. And, I grew up, you're going to go to college and you're going to get a good job and, all these things. And all those things were great. And I knew that there was something more for me to do. I loved what I did. I was healthcare background. And I'm like, this is good, but there's so much. I know that there was more. And I think a lot of times with women, we wear so many hats, and between career and children and spouse and sister and daughter and church member and all the hats we wear, and I just believe that a lot of us, we take all those roles to heart. Like we want to do them well, we want to put as much into those roles, and we can lose ourselves in the process of that.
Yeah.
And so what I found is like, wow, like, okay, there's something bigger than me for me, that I want to tap into my gifts, my talents. And I found myself like kind of leaving the things that made me happy behind. I left it, for dormant for a while because I was so focused on everybody else. And so I realized, okay, I know that I'm not the only one. When I found that thing for me that made me excited, passion, I'm like, yes. And I really believe that you don't start living until you find what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we can get so bogged down in the, life. I call it, what's the movie? Groundhog Day. When they wakes up every day, and it's the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a life to me. It's like we need something. I think we all deserve to tap into what that is. We're born to do. We're born to give to the world that's natural for us, that makes us happy and excited and energized,
Yeah.
And so that's really what Amazing Women Network is about, because out of my own story and finding my passion and tapping into my gifts that I had laid dormant, left for dead, and realizing I didn't really start truly living until I picked that back up. And there are other women that are the same, that, we all deserve that. And I believe that we don't show up as our best selves unless or until we do that. So
you said a lot. You said a lot of things I want to go in and kind of unpack and talk about. So, one being that every woman has it, whatever it is, and it looks a lot of different ways. It comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes and forms and colors. And so there's no real measuring stick for it, but there is an it factor that every woman has.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. Like life happens is what I call the vicissitudes of life. They happen. And so you'll find yourself that becomes what you believe that you were created and put here for, to go to work, get home, put the pot roast on for the kids, take the kids to soccer practice, you got the husband, and so it's easy to get stuck there. And it's so crazy because there are so many women that are in that space. Those are the women that I'm called to serve as well. Those are the women that I find myself connecting with and migrating towards in different circles and spaces, and could have very well been that person. When you talk about, from experience, sometimes that service emerges from experience. And so why do you think that so many women are so comfortable in that space? Because I know there's a lot of fear out of finding your stuff, and I say funding or really kind of what your stuff is. So why do you think men continue to struggle in that space? Talk a little bit about what are some of the challenges that you face when you're going through really that space of exploration where you are trying to rediscover or pinpoint or put your finger on what your it factor is.
So I think with the first part of your question, why do I feel that women, deal with this? How do we get here? I think one of the reasons why so many of us are in the space is because society tends to tell us verbally and non-verbally. Once you get married, once you have children, the life as you know it is officially over. And so we just be like, okay, whatever I did before, it's not my business to have fun. It's not my business to be excited every day. As long as everybody else is happy, then that's my only job. And, I disagree with that. I disagree with that notion. And I think what we in society, what we learn is why our parents and our grandparents. When you think about when we are honoring women, either by way of a funeral or memorial or whatever, sometimes you hear people say she was so she just gave of herself and she didn't think about anybody else, as if that's if that's and I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, and so I think we see our mothers do it and our mother's mother, and we want to be, like I said, we want to be those great women. So we think we need to emulate that in order to be celebrated, right? And so I'm here to shake up that notion that first and foremost, that is all to us. There's so much to us as women. And when we, just kind of shrink ourselves down to that, I think we not only do ourselves a disservice, but we do our community, our family a disservice. So in that whole, so I'm glad you asked that. So the challenge, one of the challenges is giving ourselves permission to do that. And I have a story about that I tell. I went to my high school reunion, and there was a panel of alum there. And one of the women, she was at least she had graduated probably 10 years ahead of me. But she was talking about how she reinvented herself and how she had raised her children and how she ended up working for this company, and she discovered things about herself that she didn't know. She had skills and gifts that she did not even know she had. And I remember being on the edge of my seat thinking, oh my gosh, yes, because I was in that place of rediscovery, trying to figure out what I had to offer. And I was so excited to hear this woman. And after she finished talking, I went up to her and I said, thank you so much for sharing your story. I said, I'm in a place where I'm just trying to rediscover myself and my gifts. And I said, and I too have children at home. And so she stopped me and said, no, dear, all the things you heard me say, I didn't do or pursue until my children left the house. You need to just focus on your children. And my children, and I always tell people, if my kids were 16 and 17 at the time, that would have may been all right, but they were 2 and 3. And so I'm thinking, she handed me a sentence in my mind, like, I got to put my life, my passion on hold until my kids are out of the house and they're now toddlers. Wow.
Yeah. And so let's talk about that right there. That's good. Stop right there, because then we can unpack that all day long. So I believe one of the greatest legacies that we can leave our children really is, as moms and wives and the nurturers that we are, is for them to see us fully operating in our stuff, our
Yes.
it's living
Yes.
that out. I
Yes.
believe when we are gone, that those are the things that will have impact. You understand what I'm saying? We didn't know, and you're so right. Like our mothers came from a different generation, and they didn't have anything but each other, and they had church, and that was it. They didn't have the Amazing Women Network. They didn't have, I mean, you can just go online and find all kinds of spaces like Amazing Women Network where women are there, you know, curating these environments and communities to, you know, to build and grow and help establish women in their it factors and all. But those things didn't exist for them. So I believe these are exciting times for women that will have the courage to really get out there and explore their stuff, to really put their hand in there and see what they come out with. Like this is the best time for that to be able to happen. And the other thing is, you know, you talked about the now, like we don't have the luxury. My kids are 8 and 10, you know, so I don't have the luxury to wait another decade until I decide to figure it out. So one of those challenges, and I'm sure you've encountered this on your journey, is creating, you know, the harmony between, you know, motherhood, being a wife, being a professional. You know, sometimes we're working full time on a job, and we're working full time on a dream. You know, I don't believe that we should work harder on our jobs than we do on our dreams. So there's no such thing as a part-time gig. You got a full-time job, you got a full-time dream. And so, you know, women have to be able to understand that, because there is also a lot of chatter here in the virtual space that you can just quit your job and build your dream. And that doesn't work either. That has its own set of, we can do a whole conference about that, right? uh, that formula doesn't really work either, you know. So there are a lot of roads that lead here, and they are not the same for any of us. You know, and so just being okay with that and being committed to just walking out your path and walking out your own journey, you know, and to be able, I can only imagine the devastation. You said your kids were how old at the time?
2 and 3.
2 and 3, like 2 and 3. So literally, all I have to do is knit quilts and make pot roast for the next 10 or 15 years until I can do something with myself. Like that. I've never heard anything more ridiculous, but I understand that thinking. I understand, you know, that era and that time frame. And like I said, thankfully, we've kind of ascended. We've moved past that. And so, you know, while this is not without challenges, we have definitely moved past that space. You know,
but I will tell you the challenge, because you know, there was already an inner struggle in me, because I think that's one of our biggest challenges. That's why I said, giving ourselves permission to do that, because society has ingrained in us, again, both verbally and non-verbally, that's our first duty and our only duty, right? So this is the kicker. I did listen to her for 6 years.
Oh, wow, you did?
Yes, ma'am. I took her advice,
Oh,
because I
wow.
also was taught, you listen to your elders. They know more than you. They live longer. They have more experience, right? She was a successful woman. So I thought, well, she's successful. She's my elder. Then maybe, man, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe she's right. So I did go away with conforming. I conformed for about 5 or 6 years until I realized this doesn't work for me. I can't do this. I cannot fit my square peg in this round hole because it's not working. And so what I realized, but what I learned from that, and a lot of times when I'm telling this story, you know, people are rolling their eyes and they're gasping because of what she told me. But I tell them, like you said, I wasn't mad at the woman at all, because she spoke her truth. And what I realized, that that's her truth. That was her paradigm from the era she came up in. And I think the tragedy that you should be looking at me. You're gonna be mad at anybody or fuss at anybody. It's me, because I took this woman's advice. And so, you know, and I tried to adopt her truth. And so that was a big lesson for me to learn. okay, wait a minute. We look at that we admire, and we take what we need to take, and we leave, like what they say, eat the cake without the crumbs. Like, we have to learn what we learn, what the lessons, and then how to apply them in our context, in
Yes.
our realm of influence, right? Of where we are in our lives, and where we are, in society, and learn that
Mhm.
no, we don't need to replicate everything. We take what we
Yeah.
need to take, the skills and the inspiration, and apply it to our lives now. So that was a big
Yeah.
lesson.
You talked a lot here too. When you think about this need to have your own truth, and it's kind of a cliche. You hear it, you see it. Walk in my truth, have my own truth. I think that is the thing that comes to mind as I hear you really tell this story, because there's nothing more important that are able to understand and articulate your own truth.
Yeah.
So many of us are living our lives based on a truth that was given to us, us. Like I too came from the era of, go to college, get a good job, be able to take care of yourself, get married, have a couple of kids, and life is good. You will have done more than we did.
Right.
So I understand that. Yeah. Knowing your version and having your truth, and it looks different for us all. And I think one of the biggest travesties that we can encounter right now is to try to live up to a truth that was created for us by someone else. And that's a bigger prison than the physical penitentiary. You know what I mean?
It
In a lot of ways,
It really
because
is. And so many of us are. We grow up, this is what we're taught to do, this is how we're taught to live, and we don't ever give ourselves permission to say, wait a minute, does this
yeah,
work for me?
yeah,
This got me to adulthood, but does this continue? Is this who I want to be? Who do I want to be? How do
yeah,
I want to show up in the world? How do I want to create my own life? And so many of us are living lives based on something that was created for us when we were children, and we
mhm,
haven't even stopped to think, is
yeah,
this who I am, or this is who I'm told I should be?
yeah.
So
And it's those women that I think that have the courage to begin to ask those questions. I always say powerful leaders ask powerful questions. You don't even
that's
always
right.
have the answers, but I believe that the power is in beginning to ask the questions. And when I think about the places in my life where my own consciousness has been raised and increased to a level of awareness that I did not even know was possible, it
Yeah,
came as a result of asking questions, very
me too.
simple questions
Yeah,
about things that just didn't jive with me, that didn't sit well, that didn't
yeah,
make sense, they
yeah,
didn't fit anymore.
yeah,
I think about a lot of teachings that were given to us that never made any sense.
yeah.
And real understanding and revelation didn't come until I began to say, hey, now wait a minute. I know you said this, and I know we were taught this, but something about this is not connecting for me.
And
And
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was a big part of my journey. And I remember when questions were coming to me, but I was afraid to start
mm,
asking those questions, because when you're brought up to think you don't ask questions, certain questions you don't ask. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I was brought up. Like, you don't ask questions. And so I remember going through that discomfort when questions were coming, and I'm questioning things, and is this true? Do I believe this? And it
mhm,
was a scary place. It was a scary place, because I was taught, this is what your adults say,
yeah.
what this is what the pastor says, this is what Big Mama says, and you just do it.
Whether it makes sense or not, this is what they said. And I was like, now, wait a minute. I don't know about that. I don't know if I can live with it. I don't know that I can put my teeth in that and hold on to that as
Yeah.
my truth.
Yeah.
Because, you talk, a lot about some of the religious teachings and things like that.
Yeah.
And heaven knows that many of those things were given to us, and they were given to us in error, and so I don't really
Yeah.
fault a lot of the early religious teachings that I had, or that I was given, because I realized that they
Right.
were people could only give what they have, their capacity to give is limited.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's what they understanding just through this. really this ending journey of self-discovery and self-expansion and wanting clarity, and not even so much as answers. I think more clarity than answers.
Yes.
I don't think answers says to me, black is white. This is the question. This is the answer. And very few things in life follow that formula. Here's the
Yeah.
question. Here's the answer. This answer applies to everyone. And so, not even wanting hard answers, but just being able to have a little bit more clarity along the
Yeah.
way around things. Once again,
Exactly.
because my truth is mine, and the thing that's true for me may or may not be true for you. And so,
Exactly.
really kind of,
And
go through that.
yeah, and when you talk about questions and not, I think that's the thing that can be scary for people, because when we want absolutes, we've been taught absolutes, like 1 + 1 is 2, like it doesn't
All
change.
the time.
Right? And so I think when you begin to ask a lot of questions and be okay with not having definitive answers, and
Yeah.
realizing that answers will evolve and there are actually more questions than there are answers, and
Uh-huh.
being okay with the unknown and being okay with not having absolutes in your life. And I think that's what, when you following purpose, that is what a lot of people are not comfortable with, right? Because you're like, I got this thing. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know who is going to happen with, you know,
Yeah.
and just really being able to, just ask and be open to possibility, as I started off with, possibility. And that's what, I love that, being open to asking those questions and not saying and realizing I'm not asking the questions to get definitive answers, but the very question is what begins to lead me to my next thing, right?
Yeah.
To the next thing, where the next place I'm supposed to be, the next person I'm supposed to meet, the next
Yeah.
thing I'm supposed to do, right? And
Yeah.
it's always, just expanding. It's always something else in the unknown.
You said something. I did a workshop a few years ago called Park at Possibility, and it was based on that exact premise. Like, we're not here to give definitive answers, but I can tell you that if you would just park at the parking space that says possibility, like, you can do anything from that space.
Yes.
So don't look for these hard answers that it's going to happen in this amount of time, or it's going to take this amount of money, or, that this is going to be the straight line here or there. Like, just park at possibility. Put the car in park, let the windows down, turn the radio on. And if you would just chill, if you can be okay and content in that
Yeah.
space, I promise you that you will end up wherever it is that you're supposed to be at the appointed time. And
Right.
so your body just comes from just, I think, being willing to. I'm finding that people are extremely, women especially, are, their frustration levels are at an all-time high.
Mhm.
And so that frustration is really bringing in a greater sense of willingness to at least see what's possible, see what's happening. Because I know that I've traveled this path, and I know that this path is going to end here, and that's it. This is one way in and one way out. And so, because of the frustration that's bred in those types of environments, but if I choose door number one, this could be a possibility, right? And it doesn't have to be this either or. Like I said, I don't agree, and I don't teach this theology with women that you can have this or that. You can have a family or a career. You can have a business or a job. You can't, like, where's the middle? And I believe that with enough, commitment and creativity and innovation and a little bit of coaching and, putting some resources together, I believe that you can have your own version of having it all. And
Yeah.
it looks different for us all. So
Yeah.
I just love that. So park at possibility, guys. Park at possibility. If you are tuning in to this, to the replay on down the line, write that down somewhere on a sticky note. Y'all remember being Mary Jane? She had those sticky notes all over the house. On a sticky note. I know, I miss it.
Know
I
what? I
miss
was
it.
not, and I didn't get turned on to it till very late. I was a late bloomer.
Yeah.
And I started binge watching it because someone introduced me to it. And then I'm like, it's not coming back. Wait a minute.
Yeah. We talk about Mary Jane like she's the epitome of what we're talking about in this conversation.
Yeah.
A fictitious character, but she was always under the impression that she could either have a career or she could have a family. Like, you can't really have both.
Yeah.
Something's going to go lacking. And just, think about her journey, and
Yeah.
even once she decided to create her truth and her version of the truth, all of the challenges that she met along that way,
Yeah.
along the way. So it's a very real thing. It's a
It
very
is.
real thing.
And thinking about, like you said, and just think about all the expectations that was, placed on her. Some she took on herself, some were placed on her, right? It's a real thing, especially for professional women, right? It's like, and wanting to do everything right,
Yeah.
type A. And so many of us are that are, professional women. We just want to do it right. We want to do it the best way. And I think when you were saying that, I think you were talking about between, door number one and door number two, and what has been a challenge for me and what I've worked through is that some things there's really no wrong answer. It's just a choice, and when sometimes we can be so afraid of making the wrong choice. But I'm like, but there are many choices, and I used to be very afraid. What should I do? Door oh, wait, what if door number one's not the right one? What if door number two's not the right one? And I'm at the place right now, it's like, just choose, and whatever you choose is going to bring you to a place.
And it works.
That place diverts you. There's a lesson in the diversion. So there's really no reason for us to be afraid of choosing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It all is, and you just choose, so.
And that kind of falls in line with this next question that says, where do you have unrealistic expectations of yourself? And sometimes, I know, for me, it can be, wanting the choice to be the right choice. But sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. And when it's not, being okay, being able to absorb the loss, being able to bounce back from whatever the fallout may be, and being okay with it, like not having to, hold up or shut up or go away because you made a bad choice. Like this happens.
Because because as long, I think the important thing is, where's the lesson in the choice you made, right? And I think if we look at every choice as there's a lesson. When we make a good choice, there's a lesson. A bad choice, there's a lesson, right? So if we can just be free in that way to say, okay, I'm just going to make a choice the best way I know how, and knowing that whether it goes the way I want to or not, there's a lesson. It will take me somewhere.
One of the big things that I've learned to do, and you don't get there, I'm learning, I say learn, but that I'm learning to do is to detach from the result, detach from the outcome. And in itself is a form and it's a skill set. And so you do it to the best of your ability. You do it, for example, even this broadcast, like I'm not a huge tech person. So I've gotten here and figured some things out and blah, 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 blah. And the first one it wasn't a disaster, but I had a few hiccups and there was some things that were, in my graphics that were like, and it was just about getting it done. And it was like, okay, give yourself permission, because there's a part of you that says, see, I told you didn't know what you were doing.
Right.
And you're in the business out there doing it anyway, and you done got out here and messed it up, and now these people see that you don't even know how to do it. So part of you wants to go hide and say, oh my God, I can't do that again. And so the next part was just, hey, going in, showing up, being better prepared the next time, going in. I worked through some of the kinks. The next time was better. Time 3, had a few more hiccups, but just being committed to the process of getting it figured out. I can't think of her name, but one of the speakers that says everything is figure outable. Oh, God, her name is
Forleo.
Yes.
Everything is figure outable.
It's figure outable. So everything is figure outable. And it's okay. You may hit some, hit some rough spots or whatever, but everything is figure outable, and being okay with that. So,
that reminds me when I started on my journey. Well, just piggyback off of that. I decided to live out loud. And a lot of times we want to grow behind the curtains because we don't want anybody, we want to grow and get perfect and just be like, ta-da, here I am. And life doesn't work that way, right? We can have the courage to live out loud, make our mistakes, and let people see our progression. There
Yes.
is growth in that for us and for them. And we think people want us to be perfect. No, they want us to be relatable, and they know they can do it because they're like, well, look at Stephanie, man, she had some hiccups, but it was amazing. She's showing up, and we just don't realize the impact we have of just showing up. Even when we mess up, we are an inspiration to other people who want to do the same. So
Yeah. And it's so crazy because sometimes I'll, do something and I'll say, oh man, it really wasn't that great, or I don't feel that great about it. And someone, I'm serious, I'll get a call or a message or an email, or somebody will say, hey, that was for me. I got this, blah, 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 blah. Or, I want to connect with your tribe as a result. Like
yeah,
inevitably there's always one or two. And then I have to go back and check myself and say, see, so it's about showing up. It's not about getting it all right, having all the
it.
boxes checked,
People
but
don't care about They don't
yeah,
care about that. They just want what you have. They just want to be inspired, encouraged. They just want to learn. People don't care about the things that we care about that's going on in our mind because we know what we want it to look like, right? So yeah, and that's
yeah.
I love when that happens because that's a reinsurance. Like that doesn't matter. What matters is the value.
It always happens. And every time I think that, I've done a big mess up, something will happen and it'll come back full circle. And honestly, that keeps me honest and it keeps me inspired,
Yes,
because it is easy in this space to sometimes hide out or, not show up or, not do your part or not make the impact that you could make. Because sometimes you'll say, oh, if I don't show up tonight, nobody will even know. Who really, if I don't broadcast tonight, who cares? Like, it's my stuff. I don't, but no, you made a commitment to, this platform to do this. So, and it's about you. And then that's that integrity, which is moving into the next question about what are some of your cherished values and how do those values show up in your work? For example, for integrity, like what is happening when the camera's off? What is happening when no one is there? Because it's easy to be right when all eyes are on you. But when they're going away, what does that look like? So talk a little bit about some of your most cherished values and then how those will show up in your work.
Well, I'm going to start with the one you said because that's actually one of my values is integrity. And so, and how that shows up for me is that I am a firm believer that the Bonita you see is the Bonita I am when the camera is off, and I am a product of my product. Like, so I say I don't teach anything or talk about anything that I don't believe in. And that either I'm going through or been through. I don't think you ever just nail everything or truly overcome. I think you learn tools to manage certain things. But so, if I've had tools to manage it, overcome it, or, whatever, but I'm a product of my product. I really live what it is I talk about, so I think that's really important to me. It's really important for me to, do what I say and say what I do. And that goes to my clients to, just like I really care about people, and it's not just about, how much I can get from anyone. It's important to me to bring value. And, even with my friendships and relationships, I'm learning more and more ways to apply what I live and learn, even to my children and with my husband and all of those things. And so I just think it is a lifestyle for me, and so not just something I get up and do on stage. And the other thing is,
hold on, people can smell when you're being inauthentic. Like, it's one of the easiest things, one of the easiest sense to pick up, right? So it's so important, that when you're in this space, to be comfortable with being you, because it's one of the things that you can sniff out, and nothing stinks to people more than inauthenticity.
yes, and it's just so much easier. Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine the energy it takes to try to be something you're not. Like, I don't have the time.
I was supposed to say this. I was supposed to say that. I was supposed to do this. Oprah tells this story. I'm gonna tell you this really quick. We'll finish up.
Okay.
Oprah tells the story about how when she started out, she wanted to be like Barbara Walters and whatever. And, she was saying that, she read all this stuff about Barbara Walters. Barbara Walters, did her stuff cold. She didn't know to sing, blah, 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 blah. Well, Oprah Barbara Walters is in chapter 10 and you're in chapter 1. So you can't do what Barbara is doing. That's another broadcast. And so she said she was reading this copy, this broadcast one night. Girl, and Oprah said she called Canada Canada. There was something happening in Canada. And she was like, oh my God. And she said that was like a wake-up call for her. Like, I am not Barbara Walters. I'm Oprah Winfrey. I need to read my stuff before time because Canada is not Canada. And I'm sitting here trying to look and sound and hold myself up like Barbara Walters. And I'm not Barbara. But when you said that, like you said, it's just how do you remember, when it's not really who you are, then you got to remember, what to turn on and what to turn off. And, I'm supposed to do this and do that. And I don't know about you, but girl, I've had a lot of birthdays and I can't keep up. Like I cannot keep up.
It's so much easier, to just be who you are, and not who you think people want you to be, So, I mean, even that's a journey. I mean, when I first started out, I wasn't trying to be anyone else, but I tried to be a persona, like this professional, like when I'm talking, thinking I have to be a certain way when I'm doing when I'm speaking, because I thought I need to be the expert and this is how experts are, right? And so even that's a journey to realize, no, you can be the expert and just relax and be relatable, so it's a beautiful journey, I will tell you, for sure. When you go and live, connect with purpose, it's not all perfect, but I would say that there's a book. I wouldn't take anything from my journey now. Like I wouldn't. It's like, well, what's the alternative? Boring and mediocrity. I would not choose that.
Yeah, like we would scale back from the leading edge and go back to the comfort zone. That would be the alternative. When everybody's there, what's happening there. Go to work, go home, go to bed. Do like you already know what's happening there. Yeah. So talk about I know this year has been just an incredible year, to say the least. There are a lot of words that I can think of to describe this year, but incredible is the one that we'll go with for tonight. Okay. So many, just a myriad of emotions and, just things that have happened to us personally, professionally, as a nation, as a people. Yeah. Just talk a little bit about maybe 3 things that you've learned during this pandemic, that, all that has happened over these last several months. What are the lessons that you've learned, or some of those that have been really re-emphasized or reiterated as you reflect, as we get to, move toward the end of this year?
Right. Yeah. When you talk about, a myriad of emotions from the beginning of the year to now. And I think one of the things for me is to be able to embrace, and I think this is just something I think is getting louder for me, or I guess more opportunity for me, is to just embrace what is, and not be frustrated about what it's not, or what I think it should be, or what I want it to be. But it's like when I learned, and I'm still learning, that once, we're doing that, we're fighting against what is, and frustrated about what we want it to be and what it's not. And, all of that, we are just creating, more stress for ourselves. And it's actually keeping us further away from what we really want, because we're just focusing on what it is, And so just being able to just like, okay, this is what it is, right? And not judging that. And I think it even learning not to even judge me, because I think when things, I'm like, okay, I'm a solution person, right? Like I don't like to stay with the problem. Like, what we gonna do about it, And so I was like kept pushing, pushing, pushing. And I didn't understand how all of the external things, how it really affected me, with corona and then the racial injustice and like all the things. And
Yes.
I think being able to realize that, okay, yes, it's good that I am solution oriented, and it's important to give myself that time, to take it
Yeah.
all in, to take a rest, to process what's going on with me emotionally and all of that. And not judging, just not judging any of it. Like, how can I just be and not judge myself for,
Yeah.
like, oh, I really want to be doing this or doing that,
Yeah.
um, just
That's
being
so
in it,
good.
you
That's
know?
so good. You were talking and I wrote down acceptance and surrender. And
Yeah.
that is that for me, ditto, 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 everything you said to the 10th power. Like I have relearned so much about acceptance and surrender
Mhm.
and really being able to take the path of least resistance. And when I went into a little bit of a fit when you were talking about how being in frustration, because of where we are or the times, the reality is it can only breed after its kind. And so if you
Yeah.
find yourself, constantly complaining and frustrated and, just moaning and like that stuff, you can't wallow in that and it not have an impact. And so when you are aware of that, I have told people I understand it's a pandemic, guys. I'm not making light of it. I don't think it's a game. I don't think it's a hoax. I don't think it was, I don't think any of that. But I don't want to talk about that all the time. Like
Right.
I don't have to have a corona conversation every single day. I don't I don't give myself to the news. I take in enough to be able to make, those informed decisions and sometimes they're the right decisions, sometimes maybe not. But I don't, just a constant around the clock.
Yeah.
Even all the, and I'm a person of color. Even all the stuff around all the racial unrest right now. And you
I
feel
had to
like
stop. I couldn't. I said I cannot watch another brutality video. I could not. I was like, I'm done. Like, okay.
and even everything that follows that,
Yeah.
you had that happen earlier, but then even everything that came after that, and it
Yeah.
just, in those things, like you say, they take a toll on you. And
Mhm.
so, you know what? There are some things that I have control over. There are some things that I don't, and so I'm going to spend a great deal of my time and energy focusing on the things that I can control,
Right.
and what I take in is one of those things. What
Yeah.
I decide to believe is one of those things. How
Yes.
I decide to feel and to show up, that's one of the things that I have control over.
Yep.
But I want to spend my time and energy in that place. Yeah,
Yeah.
there are some large scale things that are happening in this world that are terrible, that I wish I could wave a wand and change. And I feel like a lot of the changes that we want to see happen on a large scale, and this too is a separate, we could do a whole thing around it. But I feel like a lot of the large scale change that we want to see happens individually first. And so,
Yeah.
the real magic, the real change is with us individually, because we
Yeah.
can't show up in a collective space and be something that we don't bring to the table, or that we are not individually. And so
Right.
when these things happen and people are pointing the finger and saying, well, we need to do this, and as a person, as a people, we need to do this. I'm like, I don't, that doesn't resonate with me.
Right.
When things happen on a large scale, I go back to me individually. And
Right.
I say, man, I may not have caused that event, per se, but what can I do in my circle of influence that I have control over
Right.
to make sure that that doesn't happen, or to mitigate the chances of that happening?
Yeah.
Because it was Gandhi that said it. We have to be the change that we want to see in the world.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we want to see the change, but we don't want to be the change. And it happens here first. So I'm
Yeah.
always here first. And that's not a popular way to think, Bonita. I'm just going to tell you, it's not. We sometimes have this tribal mentality as people of color, that if we don't all think the same way, that, we got, you know how that
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
And I don't always, my don't always line up with that kind of thinking, because I believe that we are a lot more powerful than we give ourselves credit
I
for.
agree.
You know,
Yeah.
that we have a lot of things that we can be doing. And so I'm like you, I'm very solution oriented in my thinking, and I'm not the person that wants to continually talk about the problem. Let's clearly identify this problem, and then what are the possible solutions, and then how do we begin to find ourselves moving and talking constantly and being about the solutions to those problems. So yes, surrender, back to my original point, surrender and acceptance has been, it's been huge this year. And then you talked about just the no judgment zone. Like, you know, I'm finding that when I judge, it's impossible for you to judge yourself and not have that same type of judgment with other people. And so when you realize that, you let yourself off the hook more often, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you don't hold yourself accountable, but you're not so hard with yourself. Like, there are
Yes.
some really good days. The songs say, I had some good days, I had some bad days, but and it's okay.
Yes. Okay. It's all
And,
okay.
and it's
Yeah.
okay. So yeah, this year has been like, I tell you, if we could have been getting credit hours, I could have had my doctoral degree this year alone. Just
Girl.
in all of the work and time and energy that has been put into, you know, just keeping your head
Yes.
during this time. So let's
Sure.
close with this last question, Bonita.
Okay.
If you were your own coach, what advice would you be giving yourself right now?
Mm. Wow, that's a good one. Um, if I were my own coach, this advice is really I'm continually to learn. Is I would say embrace the journey. I would tell
Mhm.
myself embrace the journey. And when we embrace the journey, you're taking the good and the not so good and know that it's all a part of the journey, you
Yeah,
know? The
yeah.
things that feel good, the things that don't feel good, it's just all a part of the journey and it's all necessary.
Mm,
So that's the biggest thing. Like that's one of the things I've talked about and I'm still learning. I'm still in the space of learning how to truly embrace the journey.
yeah. I love the N word, necessary.
Yes.
It is absolutely necessary. So
Yes. Even we can't understand it, we can't explain it, but it's necessary.
necessary. It's necessary. It's so very necessary. So,
Yes.
Bonita, it's been great tonight. I know that you're going to be offering a free gift for viewers, for those that have tuned in tonight live with us, and for those that may be watching later, you know, in the future on the replay. So, talk a little bit about the free gift that you're going to be offering. I have put the link in the chat.
Okay.
So share that with talk with us about what that is.
Yes. So I'm just when we're talking about not judging ourselves, one of the things I learned was about self-compassion.
Mhm.
Um, and I was one of those that was just very hard on myself and about what I did, what I should have done, what I didn't do. And I realized, wow, wait a minute. I, I can't create anything good from being negative, talking to myself like that. And I learned, I need to talk to myself as I would a friend. Like, would you talk to a friend that way? Would you be encouraging? So that was one of the things in my journey of self-awareness. And I think a lot of us, we have that negative self-talk, and negative self-talk doesn't necessarily mean calling yourself stupid or ugly. It can just be hard. You just criticizing yourself. And so this free gift that I want to offer it's a 5-minute guide to amazing self-talk. So it just gives you some tips about how to improve your self-talk. Because the more you talk to yourself as you would a friend, then
Mhm.
the better your results are, and the better you feel, and the better, you like you said it. When we're compassionate and we don't judge ourselves, we tend to also, give
And
us a break as well. So
absolutely. So, in closing tonight, talk about what's next. I know that there have been, you know, lots of things that you've been working on and cooking up. That's one of the pluses of the pandemic, is there has been so much time to just create. So,
yeah.
tell viewers what's coming up next for Bonita and the Amazing Women Network.
Yeah, so what is next? I am planning some things. I've been really speaking on, different platforms and organizations, but I am going to be working on a webinar, and I have this talk called The Power of No, and it's actually a chapter in my book entitled Who Stole My Significance. And I'm finding I've been speaking, doing this talk in a few different places, and women are resonating with that. So that is what's next. I'm going to be started doing webinars. I don't know exactly how often I'm going to do them yet. I'm going to decide that this week, but I'm going to be offering that talk to women, and possibly doing a course from that, because I really believe that that's something a lot of us struggle with, is saying no, and how to say no, and having the confidence around why about saying no. And I talk about why I think we don't say no as women more
Yeah.
often. So yeah, so that's what's next for the Amazing Women Network, and just really, building a tribe of women who want to be, do, and have more, and want to show up as their best selves. So that's one of the ways that I'm helping women do that.
Yes. So, guys, you'll see across the bottom of the screen, you've got Bonita's website. You can go check out more about her upcoming course, some of the things that she's done in times past at amazingwomennetwork.com. So go there. You can connect with her, get on her mailing list, and just being able, to connect with her and all of that. So, Bonita, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad that you said yes. I know it's late. But I told you, girl, I have a late night. That's my rhythm. For some people, it's early morning. For me, my rhythm is in the night. When it's dark outside, the house is quiet.
Yeah.
Every book I've ever written has been done at night. Like nothing happens at my house in the morning. Everything happens at night. So thanks for standing up with me tonight and hanging out with me tonight and just sharing the good parts of yourself with our audience tonight. And we want to just wish you the best. We'll be in contact. We'll be connecting soon at some time or another, I'm sure. We'll be connecting soon and very soon. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight to Propel. We'll be back actually next Monday night with our next broadcast on, I believe it's November the 2nd, next Monday night. So I've got a very special guest lined up for November 2nd. We'll be making that announcement tomorrow. So stay connected, and we'd love to have you there. And thanks for being a part of Propel. Make sure that if you're watching by YouTube, that you subscribe. If you are on Facebook or YouTube, you can share the good news. We've got a couple people still on with us tonight. Lakia says, I have enjoyed listening to you, Bonita. Lakia, I have too. Isn't she fun, right? Bonita's a fun girl too. Like when I go to San Antonio, we have a good time. But yeah, so it's been great, guys. Again, thank y'all for tuning in and hanging with us tonight. Bonita, holidays are upon us, so happy holidays to you and yours. And we'll be connecting, and I'll see you on the other side.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you.